You think we just have to get the election out of the way, and then it sort of clears the way for what you still think can be a pretty decent rally? I think your target's 6,000 or around that.
Yeah, Scott, there's a lot of firepower supporting stocks post-election because we've got a Fed that's dovish and the economy looks healthy. I don't think we're in a recession. And so, the 3-month and 6-month outlooks are very strong for stocks. And I think China, while there's maybe some hesitation, but China's government is really starting to unleash some measures, and that's supportive of that region finally turning. And of course, the third factor is, I think after 2 years, investors who've been very cautious are starting to realize that, the $6 trillion of cash on the sidelines and the low levels of margin debt need to be put to work at a time when the Fed is supporting the economy.
In this video, Tom Lee from Fundstrat discusses the stock market's recent momentum and advises a cautious yet optimistic approach. He suggests buying dips due to the market's strong performance in 2024 but acknowledges that investor caution around the upcoming election may limit growth temporarily. Lee believes the market has a strong outlook for the next 3 to 6 months, particularly post-election, supported by a dovish Fed and healthy economic conditions. The discussion then shifts to Nvidia and the semiconductor sector, with analyst Vic Arya of Bank of America Securities sharing insights on Nvidia's leading position in the AI-driven data center market. Arya highlights Nvidia's role in the rapid transformation of data centers through advanced AI technology, where demand is fueled by the growth in generative AI and large language models. He emphasizes Nvidia's edge in providing comprehensive solutions, from processors to software, that address the industry's complex need. Finally, there's a look at Nvidia's growth potential amid competition and increased capital expenditures on AI initiatives by tech giants like Microsoft, Google, and Meta. Arya explains that Nvidia's position remains strong due to its market share and technological advancements, while Brin, a notable investor, recently bought more Nvidia stock, confident in its potential to benefit from rising AI spending across the industry.
I led in here with the fact that, we have this streak going for stocks. We above 5,800 for the S&P for the first time ever, though it seems to me from your notes that you're a little bit cautious as this month progresses. Why?
Well, Scott, we're cautious, but we advised our clients to be buying the dips. And the reason we're cautious is that I'm probably saying something very obvious, but I think investors want to see who ends up becoming present after election day. So I think we are in a period where markets are just sitting on the sidelines, but at the same time, 2024 has been such a strong year, Scott, that I think the last 2 weeks have proven that maybe macro is taking a little bit of a step back now, and liquidity and all this cash on the sidelines is really the dominant factor.
But Blackwell's fixed. That didn't take long, right? And you expect the yield to get better. What does that mean? The yield will get better for Blackwell?
Yeah, initially when they put the Blackwell product out, there was an issue in just the underlying semiconductor wafer. So they have fixed that. And we are now expecting Blackwell to go from almost nothing to, at least $3 to $4 billion in their next quarter, going on to 10 to 15 and then to 20 plus $billion over the next several quarters. It is an extremely complex product. It's not just their product. We need to see a lot of other improvements in the data center, such as liquid cooling. So you have, sort of the whole village coming together in making this successful, because without making this successful, you're not going to have the scaling of a lot of these large language models. You're not going to be able to really justify their speed or accuracy. And it's a virtuous cycle. Every time NVIDIA comes out with a better product, you have the software community, the internet community, the cloud community, the enterprises coming out with applications that can take better advantage of it. And it goes back and forth. And we think the cycle can last for several years. And the one other point I would also want to make in terms of the stock itself, yes, it has had a remarkable run, but when we look at its earnings growth for next year that we forecast to be in the range of 40 to 50%, it is still trading less than 1 times that earnings growth. And if you look at the broader market, it's trading at 2 times the earnings growth. If you look at the other Max 7, they're also trading 1.5 to 2 times their earnings growth. So from that metric, we do think the stock is still compelling at these levels.
But we do have big news regarding one of the Mag 7 stocks, and it is that Brin has bought more Nvidia, which I thought was Pretty interesting, considering the stock has been up a lot. It's right on the heels here of Apple with market cap. Why'd you buy more here?
Yeah, so next week, we know, which we're going to get into, we have the Oscars of earnings with all of the big names that we talk about. And I think that, how do you play that trade? I own Nvidia, I've owned it for a long time, and I think the stock technically looks like it's breaking out. It had been consolidating for the past couple months, but I feel really confident Microsoft, Apple, via OpenAI, Meta, Google, Amazon are all going to be talking about what? Their AI initiatives. And so I think next week we'll have some winners and losers, some disappointments, but I think all roads once again lead to Nvidia, and you're going to continue to see huge CapEx spends from these companies as they're all individually looking to monetize their own endeavors into AI. And I still think Nvidia is in pole position to benefit from all of that CapEx spend. So I took the opportunity to add to it yesterday.
Let's bring in our next guest to talk about NVIDIA in the chip sector. Vivek Arya, Bank of America Securities Senior Semiconductors Analyst. And when you look at NVIDIA, it's good to see you, Vivek. When you look at it, I think there's two angles. One is how strong are its customers? How strong is demand going to be? And then you've got, I guess, competitors to NVIDIA that want to get into the same business. And on both of those metrics, I think you think NVIDIA is well positioned. They're still the leader, and demand is still going to be strong.
Yeah, good morning, Joe. I think the key is that their customers are in a race to re-architect the data center and replace traditional servers with accelerated servers. This movement had started about a year or two ago, and then as soon as we started to see the improvements in generative AI and these large language models, which, by the way, the computing requirements to train some of these models are growing 4 to 5 times a year. So this is not your, Moore's law progressing every 2 years. This is technology that is changing every, is 4 to 5 times a year. So we need to throw a ton of computing infrastructure, and it is not just the processors, it is networking, it is optics, it is software, it is developers, it is bringing it all together. And in our mind, there is only one company that can bring it all together. This is expensive, no doubt. We are going from capital intensity for a lot of these cloud players that used to be 9 or 10%, and now it's 15 or 16%, right? CapEx is growing 50+% a year. But we do think that this is very important for them. It can open up new revenue opportunities, and this build out and re-architecting can last at least through the next decade, with a 4 or 5 year of initial build out and then a lot more success-based build out. And then finally, yes, there is competition, but we do expect NVIDIA to maintain its 80 to 85% market share, and then another 10% or so for these custom chips, and then a few percent for other players such as AMD.
You refer to it as a generational opportunity, and that I guess that's 10 years. That'll continue. There's some industry events. You point to Taiwan's semis results. AMD had an AI event. All these things. So you're saying that all Avago, Micron, all these things indicate that's demand for NVIDIA's Blackwell chips?
Yeah, I think we have a few things that are coming together. First of all, the customers themselves are being pushed by this private company, OpenAI, on one side, that is innovating rapidly in a very kind of closed and proprietary architecture. And on the other hand, you have a company such as Meta that is putting out large language models in a very open format, right? Anyone can go and access their models. So the traditional cloud players are having to take the lead from these two very important forces. And this is not just a US phenomena, right? We are seeing this spread across the world, where every country, every region wants to be involved in setting up their large language model. NVIDIA is in India this week, for example, and there's a lot of large language models that are being trained in Indian languages, right, for that culture. There are large language models that are being trained for all the languages and culture of the Middle East. So I think this is a global phenomena. Enterprises are jumping on board. Novo Nordisk is deploying a supercomputer, using NVIDIA's help. So it's a global phenomena. But as I mentioned, that in order to be successful in this, you can't just be successful in semiconductors, right? You have to be successful in the underlying systems integration technology, in networking and optics and software and developers. And the other important part of what you mentioned is you need scale. You need to be able to work very well with the supply chain because this is not going to take just one player. It's going to take many different players coming together and putting out this technology with a lot of reliability. That's the only way, I think, to scale it across this broad base of cloud and enterprise and sovereign entities.
In summary, Tom Lee sees a promising outlook for stocks, with a cautious approach leading into the election. While uncertainties linger, he expects post-election conditions to support a strong rally, bolstered by a supportive Fed and a stable economy. Meanwhile, Nvidia remains at the forefront of AI and data center evolution. As discussed by Vik Arya, Nvidia's technological lead and comprehensive AI solutions position it as a pivotal player in the industry's growth, even as competition and high capital expenditures continue to reshape the market. With leading tech companies heavily investing in AI, Nvidia is set to benefit from increased spending and infrastructure demand, reinforcing its role in AI-driven transformation. Given this environment, both analysts point to Nvidia's ongoing market leadership and potential as a compelling investment despite recent gains. Do you think Nvidia's dominance in AI technology can continue despite rising competition? How do you think the upcoming election will impact stock market confidence and investment decisions?